Hey guys, what's up? It's DC here. So I got a great question in our last video on the comment section about what it was like to give out my first black belt. So thank you very much for the question, and I'll try to answer it as best I can in the shortest amount of time possible to not make the video too long. So giving out a first black belt in jiu-jitsu was a completely surreal experience for me because obviously just the training with the guy that I gave it to, we'd been training together before I even opened up PC Jiu-Jitsu. So I was teaching in a club in Geelong, and this guy was a white belt at the time. He was training with us. We became friends on the mat, and we were training together a lot. And then when I opened up the club, he came over and started training with us here. I'm not even going to say he started training with us here. He was already a really strong pillar of the club. He was a friend of mine. So, when I opened the club up, it was just a natural thing for him to come and train with us, and he just kept training with us. So it was just one of those things. He'd come over, he enjoyed it, he liked the training, we enjoyed each other's training, so we just kept training together. Obviously, over the years, he went through his belts with me, did white, blue, purple, brown, and then eventually got his black belt. It was a scary moment though, because it's a first, and when something is a first, it's quite difficult. You have to be really sure that you're doing the right thing, not only for that person, because yes, it's a very personal thing between you and them when you give a black belt out, because you've facilitated and helped in their journey. They've done all the work, but you've been a part of that work for a long time, right? It takes time in jiu-jitsu to get belts, but it's also, when it was the first one, it's also setting the standard of what you believe other students should be doing to get a black belt, which is really setting the culture of your gym. So you have to be very sure when you give out your first black belt about what path your culture of your gym wants to be. Do you want to go down the path of giving out a black belt, giving black belts out based on attendance? Do you want to go down the path of giving black belts based on gradings and tests? Syllabuses and tests. I chose to go down the path of not having time frames on belts, or not having, tests and syllabuses and things like that, and doing it on a student's merit, their personal journey and merit. So this can be a little bit harder, right? Because you don't have just a test that you can just go to say, well, if you just complete ABC, then you're going to get a belt. And if you complete it in this time frame, you could get your belt in a year, or like I'm talking white to blue there. Or you could get a black belt in 5 to 6 years or 7 years because you passed the test, or you've ticked off enough classes, so here you go, here's a belt. When you do it the other way, where you don't have those things and you're doing it on, what I explained just before, it's a very personal thing, right? It becomes a personal journey between you and your students. And you have to be very involved within your students to be able to do that. You have to be rolling with them. You have to be on the mat with them every day. You have to be, observing what they're doing and giving feedback, and having an openness to your teaching where they feel that they can come and talk to you and you can talk to them and be honest about what they need to be learning. And, or trying to get that across within the class structure, allowing students to understand that it's not about how many techniques you know, but it's about the concepts and the principles, and building skill around those concepts and principles. So it wasn't just the fact of giving out a belt to someone. That in itself, like the person that I gave the first black belt to, I was friends with outside of jiu-jitsu too. And that friendship developed over a period of time while we were training together. So my partner became friends with his partner. I was at his wedding. I was at, when his son was born, I was at, the baby things for those. And I went through his ups and downs in his career as a fighter and as a jiu-jitsu guy, right? So those things were all very, very special to be a part of, and it was an amazing experience to be able to give a belt out to a person like that. But it was also so important for the club. One, that other students could see that you could achieve a black belt within the club, because it had never been done before. So who knows if it can be done, right? Whenever you open a club, you don't have you have belts that come into the club. Sometimes you have new students that come in and join the club, and they might be higher belts, and maybe that, they come in and they're higher belts. So their students can see higher belts on the mat, but they've never seen a higher belt get graded within the club. So that was a massive part for the club, that the other students could see that this is achievable. And if I can make my personal journey on the mat and I can make it, I can achieve a black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? And then the second thing is it sets the culture of the club, right? So it's not about doing what the other person who got the black belt did to get the belt. It's about this person had to go through this personally to get the belt. You are going to have to go through something similarly personally to get your belt, because his belt is not your belt. Your belt is your belt, and your journey will be different, right? But there is a similarity within what they've gone through and what you're going to have to go through on your own personal journey to get that belt and achieve that belt. So for me, it was not only was it a surreal experience to hand a friend of mine who I'd trained with before I even started DC Jiu-Jitsu a black belt, and do 10 years of training with that person, going through all of the things that we went through and watching his development and being a part of that development. That was an amazing experience. But how it set us for the future of DC Jiu-Jitsu moving forward, what we expected of the culture and what we expected of the students, that was very, very important to me when I gave out that belt also. And there is the underlying culture of giving out that first black belt is still a repercussion through the academy today, 6 years later, and even I would say 16 years later, because he started with us, right? He was a pillar point of that culture being developed throughout all of his belts. And then when he got the black belt, the representation of that culture was in that belt, so to speak. So yeah, it set our path. It really set the culture and the path of where we wanted to be and what we believe that students personally should be achieving to get to that higher level in jiu-jitsu. So I hope that answered the question. If you guys have any other questions like that, I love them, man. It's great to be able to talk about these sorts of things, and questions like that are just really fantastic because it gets me to think about a different side of jiu-jitsu and sort of formulate into a conversation how I feel about certain things within the jiu-jitsu and within jiu-jitsu and within the jiu-jitsu community. So if you've got any other questions, guys, please throw them through and I'll try to get to them as best I can. I also saw some comments about doing some more technical videos and some more breakdowns and things. I'll get to those as well. I've got a lot of things I want to get onto this channel in regards to concepts and principles, and also some technical stuff too. So there'll be some more gi techniques coming and some more nogi, but I do want to try to do something a little different with the channel where I can a lot of people just do techniques, and I want to try to get to more of the principles and the concepts of jiu-jitsu, because I see people talking about principles and concepts within jiu-jitsu, but then they just go and put out a bunch of techniques and they're not actually addressing the concepts and principles that make up jiu-jitsu. So that is going to be a goal of mine with the channel, is to try to get you guys to understand the fabric that holds jiu-jitsu within, and then you guys can build techniques off that. So anyway, thank you so much for the question. I hope this has answered it, and looking forward to the next one. See you later, guys.